So my name's Morgan. I'm going to be teaching y'all about graph databases. I do also have Twitch open on my phone, so you guys can put questions in the Twitch. I know it is a little bit of a delay, so like don't get mad at me if I take a long time to answer it. Let me put this real fast. I'll put this demo with all of the stuff on the Discord channel in just a second. And I'm just going to go through this. I used to teach and I hate PowerPoints. I don't make slides, but it's all here. This is what we're going to do. So yeah. First, I'm just going to talk a little bit about me because I'm my favorite subject. Currently, I do data science for a company called VetaPoint, and I build infrastructure for doing DNA science. And so I do like, everything from like what kind of information is important to, okay, let's make it look pretty. So that's me. And so now let's actually talk about fun stuff. So when we work with data, one of the things that we really have to decide is whether or not we care about a relationship more or the actual data. So if we're building something like a library system, we care more about the data. We want to know information about the books. We want to know where they are. We don't really care like, this author was friends with this author at one point. We just don't care. But if you're trying to build like a book recommendation system, then we do really care about that because we care a lot more about the relationships than the data. And so that's like our big decision that we're going to make when we're talking about a graph database versus a traditional database with the SQL or no SQL. We have this really ugly definition. It uses a graph structure for semantic queries, blah, 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 blah. Let's look at some pictures because like that's all math and you don't need to know math in order to do this. I want pictures. Here we go. This is what a graph database is. And so we make these pieces that are all connected to each other so we can make decisions based on those relationships. Excellent. I'm going to come back to what problems does it solve because I want to take a look at some other things we can do with it. But the big thing is that these are really useful for things like social media, contract tracing. I mean, you could even use graph databases to build things like a newer, faster, like Google Maps, because those kind of routes and relationships are really important. The other thing that's really nice about them is graph databases are much more flexible than a traditional database, which is something that I use a lot because when you're working, like 30 different kinds of individual data types in my system. And, if you've ever worked with a lab scientist, they don't always necessarily know the difference between just data and important data. So I have to add lots of stuff all the time. So having that flexibility makes it really, really nice. All right, I'm going to flip back to my main page here for a second. Let's look at, this is one of the most common cheap implementations. You can do these for free for small scale, but once you get into enterprise, it gets expensive. So one of the things that I like about Nptune is it lets you do both Gremlin and Sparkle. I really wanted to be a Sparkle developer, but instead I'm a Gremlin developer. They're just two different ways of interacting with a graph database, just like, you have like MySQL or Oracle or, the dozens and dozens of other SQL languages. It's the same thing. You just have Gremlin and Sparkle. once you get into them, they're pretty easy to switch between. Gremlin is what I use. I like it a little bit more because it feels a little bit more like traditional SQL. Sparkle uses RDF, and like, if you really, really like, forget the technology, we're all Sparkle developers. I agree. If you really, really like looking at things from like, here is this format and I'm going to use it, Sparkle can be a lot easier. And it can be easier to upload like big bunches of data. Cool. Fabulous. So this is how to host it on the cloud. Very fancy. Get some use cases. Identity fraud detection. This is also one of the things that I think graphs get used a lot for is recommendation ones. Because you can start to really see all of these different relationships, and these are really hard to model in a traditional database. Like, how are you going to model this possible relationship of people who like sports? That doesn't really work in a SQL database, but in a graph database, you could just be like, here you go, here's an edge. So Nptune's one of the really common ones. It supports Gremlin and Sparkle, and we'll look at some Gremlin code. All right. So Tinkerpop is Apache's version. They built Gremlin. Here's how to download it. The one thing I don't like about their documentation is it's all like this one huge thing. It's cute though. He's very cute. It's pretty easy. So like once we get in here and look at this stuff, it's not terrible to get into. I'm going to show you guys a really easy one to get started with, but this is what it builds, and this is what the code looks like. You can use JavaScript, Python, anything. This is the Groovy implementation, which I think is their Java flavor. Oh, I lost my little chat. Come back. Go sports ball. Sports ball. So fab. But it reads pretty much like JavaScript or Python. You know, you have your G, which is graph.v, which is vertex, and then you can do stuff. Get values, get an edge, see if something has something. It's not terrible code. I'm not going to show Sparkle code because it's a little bit less popular, but it's also not insanely difficult to learn. One of the other ones that's really popular besides Nptune is Neo4j. And this is the one I like. The only thing that I don't like about it is its enterprise license is many, many monies. But if you don't need the enterprise version, it's free. So pretty. The reason I like Neo4j more than Nptune is because Neo4j comes with a built-in visualizer, and we're going to see that. So we're going to be using Docker because I don't want to deal with all the setup. I don't know if y'all saw on the Tinkerpop thing that you know, it was like, here, set up the server, here, set up the client, here, do. I'm not dealing with all that. That's work. So we're going to be using the Docker image. If you haven't used Docker, it's okay. We'll just be copying and pasting stuff. It's not scary. So if you've never used Docker before, you need to download it. I think I have the link to download it in that repo, but if not, you just, download Docker. Then you copy this nice pull. And then if you scroll down, I also have it copied in the, no, it seems to be desyncing. Do I need to wait for it to catch up? Is my audio good? He's not listening to me. So sad.
It's a little off, but I can hear you fine. Yeah.
Okay. All right. groovy. Well, we're just going to keep on keeping on. Okay. I want to make sure it's nice. So I already ran this because it does take a little bit of time, and I'm on my little baby Mac. So I already ran this, and cool. And this command here, again, you don't really need to know how Docker works. Just copy this and run it, and it'll go through and do its Docker things. And then we get this. And this is the GUI that Neo4j comes with, and this is why I like it so much, because like it's so easy to figure out what you're supposed to do. When you use Neo4j for the first time, your password and username is just Neo4j, and then it'll ask you to set a password. An important thing though, even if you restart your, hey, I love my Mac. Baby Mac is my absolute baby. I love her. I have Mama Mac for my actual development, and then I have my Linux machine for games. We're bought into the cult. One of the things with Docker and Neo4j though is if you restart this Docker image, your password that you created will still be the password you created. Oh, okay, excellent. I had to figure that out the hard way because I figured it was, an ephemeral instance, so it would reset the password. It does not. Neo4j uses Cypher, like how other things use Gremlin or Sparkle. Cypher feels very SQL. So we can hit this, create this. I think EE is the name of the database. Variable EE label person. Great. Go. This is also why I really like this, because this is so easy to see. So now we've already added a vertex, and come on. I want to, yeah, now we can see it. Match. And then there we go. Look at that. We got a graph database up and running with stuff. Very exciting. Let's see. What else? Can I build some new things? Ooh, here we go. Look at this. Big code. All right. So this is, let me see. Can I see the whole thing? So we're going through and creating a bunch of nodes and relationships. Did this go? I wonder. Yeah, okay. We're not going to do that again because I don't want to break it. So then now we should be able to see this. And now we'll get to see the real beauty of it because we'll get connections. Wow! So now we can see that, like, oh, I don't know how to say any of these names. Email knows Ian and Johan, and that Ian and Johan know each other. And we can also see that because of the way that these relationships are set up, that, like, Ian doesn't know he knows email. So, like, we were building, like, a social media thing or contact tracing. We could, maybe be like, hey, Ian, this person says they know you. This person says that, they saw you at the bar that they were at, that they got, the vid. And so you can build those kind of connections with this. And then, this syntax isn't super crazy. Like if you've worked with like Oracle or something, it's pretty much the same. It's not super insane. Yes, the visualizer is my favorite part. This is why I really love Neo4j. It's just so easy to see what you're doing. Versus like I use Nptune for work and it's fine, but instead of getting like this really beautiful visualization, I just get like this. And this is much harder to like go through and verify. Oh, I lost my notes. No one's surprised. All right. So that's all I really wanted to talk about was just like what this is at its core and how to get it set up the easiest way. And the easiest way is to use that Docker image. Super, super fun. And it walks you through like, I don't know if y'all, let me go back. But when you first log in, can I go all the way back? This is only one of the demos. And it starts you with 3 new demos that are all really, really these are all very useful demos and they can get you pretty far. Yeah. So that is about all I got. The only other thing that I would say is if you're going to build this for yourself, you probably want to use a Graph API instead of a REST API. And if you're going to use Graph APIs, don't use Postman to test them because Postman doesn't work for that yet. They said they're eventually going to support Graph API calls, but they have not yet. And that's all I got. I will post this in the Discord and feel free to message me if you got any questions.